All right, guys, this is Quiz 2 review. So if you're struggling, then fast forward and watch what you need, and hopefully you're good. Okay, here's question number 1. So this is a rational function. So it's the vertical asymptote, horizontal asymptote, all that stuff, okay? So here's your problem. Okay, so step 1 is to always factor. So on the top, if you take out an x, you're left with x to the second minus 2x minus 3. The bottom factors 2x and x. Signs are the same, they're both positive. 2 and 2 multiply to give me 2 and add to give me 4. And then the top will factor further. So it goes to x and x. 3 goes to 3 and 1. Signs are different. Biggest is the negative. Looks like that. I'm going to write the bottom as x plus 2 squared. Okay, so sometimes I'm going to look there, pink, and sometimes I'm going to look there. When you do this, you have to remember the list of things to find. So x-intercept, y-intercept, vertical asymptote, non-vertical asymptote, and does it cross? So x-intercept is an ordered pair. You let y be 0, which is the same as letting the top be a 0. So set the x be equal to 0, you get 0, 0 crosses. X plus 1 gives you negative 1, 0 crosses. X minus 3 gives you 3, 0 crosses. They all cross because all the exponents are 1s. If 0, 0 is an x-intercept, it's also a y-intercept. Vertical asymptote comes from the bottom. It's x equals negative 2. The exponent's 2, so this is even. Non-vertical asymptote, pink, biggest over biggest, it's going to be an oblique. So people are getting a little confused about this. You use the multiplied out version of the bottom, and then the multiplied out version of the top. You're missing a constant, so I'm going to add a 0. What do I multiply by x to the second to get x to the third? That's an x. So it's x to the third plus 4x squared plus 4x. Change my signs. Those cancel. Negative 6x to the second minus 7x, bring down the 0. What do I multiply by x to the second to get negative 6x to the second? That's negative 6x to the second minus 24x minus 24. Change your signs. Those cancel. I know this is going to be my remainder, so I think that's 17x plus 24, but it's just going to end up getting thrown out, so it's y equals x minus 6. Does it cross a non-vertical? Take the pink multiplied out version of the original, set it equal to the right side of the non-vertical, which is x minus 6. So this is kind of crazy. I think way more complicated than what you're going to see on the midterm, but when you cross multiply, you get x to the third minus 2x to the second minus 3x. Cross multiply this way, distribute the x, and you have x to the third plus 4x to the second plus 4x. Distribute the negative 6, negative 6x to the second minus 24x minus 24. So the left is x to the third minus 2x to the second minus 3x. The right is x to the third. You have 4x squared and negative 6x squared. That's a negative 2x squared. 4x and a negative 24x. That's a negative 20x minus 24. I'm not talking to myself, I promise. This x to the third comes over and knocks that one out. That comes over and knocks that one out. This one comes over and becomes a 20x. So I have 17x equals negative 24 divided by 17. So the answer is yes, it does cross it. And it crosses it at a negative 24 over 17 on the x value. So now you grab your calculator and go negative 24 divided by 17, store, enter. And then you're going to put it into that pink. So you have to go parenthesis, memvar, enter, raise it to the third, minus 2, memvar, enter, x squared, minus 3, memvar, enter, close it, divided by parenthesis, memvar, enter, x squared, plus 4, memvar, enter, plus 4, close it, enter, and I got negative 7.4. And that is sufficient. I just hit second and then I hit PRB, and when I did that, it converted that negative 7.4 into a fraction of negative 7 and 7 over 17. So you can do that if you want to. Okay, so the way you do that is second PRB. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of all this stuff, and now I'm going to graph it. So on those ordered pairs that I just wrote, you don't have to do both of those. I was just trying to show you how to get it to a mixed number. Okay, all right, so
Jeff Agnello, will you please come to the Counseling Center? Jeff Agnello.
Draw your XY axis. Negative 2 is here. Dash it. And that is even. Okay. Y equals x minus 6. So I'm going to go down 6. And then right one up one, right one up one, right one up one. So I know it's going to hit over there at a 6. And it is going to cross. So I'm going to kind of leave this part open and go like that. Okay. 24 divided by 17 is 1.4. So if you're at a negative 1.4, you're at a negative 7 point something. I'm just going to put that dot right on that asymptote. Okay. So what else do you know? You know 0, 0 crosses, negative 1, 0 crosses, 3, 0 crosses, and I think that's it. Okay. So there's no way it's going to be up high. If you went up high, you'd have to come down and get to that asymptote, and you can't hit the x-axis. So it's not going to be up high. It's going to be down low. So it's going to be down low and get to that asymptote like that. This one's even, so it's going to be down low as well over here. Come up, hit that, cross through, hit that, cross through, hit that, cross through, and then the place that you go is over there, like that. Okay, that was long. Okay, that was number 1. Here's number 2. So this is a critical numbers type 2. I can tell because when I distribute that 2x, I'm going to get 6x a second minus 2x, and then I'm going to pull that 4 over and it becomes a positive. Okay, and now I'm going to take out a 2, and I'm left with 3x squared minus x minus 2 is greater than 0. And then the 3x squared goes to 3x and a plain x. 2 goes to 2 and a 1 like that. Signs are different. Biggest is the negative. Looks like that. Critical numbers are x equals negative 2/3 from that. X equals positive 1 from that. Go to your number line. Negative 2/3, positive 1. Both are open because I don't have an equal sign. I know my signs are going to alternate because those exponents are 1s. If I test 0, I'm testing that region. And if I put in a 0, those would go away and I'd get a negative. Like I said, I know the signs are going to alternate. So I know it's going to be positive, negative, positive, and those signs have to be there. This inequality is greater than, which means I have to shade here. It didn't tell you how to write your answer. You do have to write your answer in either set or interval or inequality. So it's negative infinity, negative 2/3 with a parenthesis, union, 1 to infinity. That's your answer. Okay, number 3. Number 3 is like number 1. It's another rational function. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just write that down. And now I'm going to factor the bottom. So the bottom goes to an x and an x. Signs are the same. They're both negative. 4 and 1 multiply to give me 4 and add to give me 5. Okay, so sometimes I'm going to look yellow and sometimes I'm going to look at pink. And I have to remember the list of things I'm finding, which are x-intercept, y-intercept, vertical asymptote, non-vertical asymptote, and does it cross. X-intercepts come from the top. Let the top be equal to 0. Let 2x squared equal to 0. You get a 0, 0. And since it's even, it bounces. If 0, 0 is an x-intercept, it's also a y-intercept. Vertical asymptotes come from the bottom, so it's x equals 1. Looking at the pink, that exponent's 1, so it's odd. That one right there, x equals 4, and it's odd. Non-vertical asymptote is biggest over biggest. Look at the yellow, 2x squared over x squared. My students were saying that was like y equals 1 in the past. Those x squareds cancel, and it's actually y equals 2. Does it cross? Take the multiplied out version of the original, set it equal to the right side of the non-vertical. Cross multiplying, you get 2x squared equals 2x squared minus 10x plus 8. This 2x squared comes over and knocks that one out. 10x comes over, so you have 10x equals 8. Divide by 10, and you get 8 over 10, which is 4 over 5. So yes, it does cross it at 4/5 comma something. Grab your calculator and go 4 divided by 5, store, enter. You put it into the yellow equation, so go 2 membar enter x squared divided by parenthesis membar enter x squared minus 5 membar enter plus 4, close it, enter, and I got a 2. So that's where it's going to hit. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and graph it. X equals 1 and x equals 4. So there's 1, dash it and it's odd. There's 4, dash it and it's odd. Y equals 2. Looks like this, and it is going to cross it over on the positive side, so I'm going to leave it open about like that. Intercepts are 0, 0, bouncing. And 0.8 comma 2 is where it hits it. Okay, I know my end behavior is going to be out like that, and I can see it. So if I'm up high and I hit that where it crosses, then I hit here and bounce, the place that I'm supposed to go is back up to that intercept. So it looks like that. Okay, this asymptote right there, both of those asymptotes are even. So if I'm up on the left, I have to be down on the right. Okay, now the problem is I can't touch the x-axis here, nor can I touch that. So I know it's just going to come up to some point and then it's going to swing back down. This is also odd, so if it's down, then it's got to be up over here, head over in that area, and that's it. Okay, that was number 3. Here's number 4. Number 4 is another critical numbers problem. So here is your inequality. Step number 1, set it equal to 0. So it looks like this. Step number 2, factor. So it's x to the second minus 2x minus 8. Next step, continue to factor. So it goes to x and x. 4 and 2. Signs are different. Biggest is the negative. Next step are critical numbers. Set that equal to 0, x equals 0. Set that equal to 0, x equals negative 2. Set that equal to 0, x equals positive 4. Go to your number line. Negative 2 is here, positive 4 would be out there. Closer to the negative 2 than the 4 would be the 0. There's an equal sign, so they're all closed. There's nothing in the denominator, so that, nothing to open. Signs are all 1, so I know they're going to alternate. I cannot test 0, so I'm going to test like a 1. I could put it in the calculator. I can just do it in my head. If I put a 1 there, I'm going to have 1 minus 2 minus 8, which is going to give me a negative sign. You can put it in your calculator, it's fine. I know they're going to alternate, so it's going to be negative, positive, negative, positive. The signs need to be there. Less than means negative. That would be here and here. So in interval form, it's negative infinity to a negative 2 with a bracket, union 0 with a bracket to 4 with a bracket, and that's your answer. Okay? Number 5. Number 5 is a critical numbers type 2. The reason it's a critical numbers type 2 is because you have fractions with x on the bottom and an inequality. So step number 1, get a 0 on the right hand side. So you're going to pull that over. Step number 2, get a common denominator. This guy right here has the x plus 1. He's missing the x plus 7. Distribute, and I get x to the second plus 7x. This guy right here has the x plus 7. He's missing the x plus 1. Distribute the negative 4, and I get negative 4x minus 4. You have to distribute that negative. Then clean that up, and you get x to the second plus 3x minus 4 over x plus 1 times x plus 7 greater than 0. Now I'm going to factor the top, so it's going to go to an x and an x. 4 goes to 4 and 1. Signs are different. Biggest is the positive, looks like that. And the bottom doesn't change, okay? So your critical numbers from the top are x equals 1 and x equals negative 4. From the bottom, you have x equals negative 1 and x equals negative 7. So go to your number line, negative 7 here, negative 4 there, negative 1, positive 1. I don't have to worry about restrictions because they're all going to be open circles anyway because I don't have an equal sign, so open circles. If I test a 0, I'm testing there. And if I put a 0 in, you know, it doesn't really matter where you go. If I put a 0 in like right here, then I know the top. You could totally just, you know, store it in your calculator. Or you can say, this would give me a negative, that would give me a positive, this would give me a positive, that would give me a positive, that's a negative. So I know that region right there is going to be negative. Probably storing it would be better if what I did just confused you. So anyway, all the exponents are 1s, so the signs are going to alternate. So it's plus, minus, plus, minus, plus. Greater than means positive, so that would be here and here and here. So in interval form, it's negative infinity to negative 7 with a parenthesis, union negative 4 to negative 1 with a parenthesis, union 1 to infinity, everything's parentheses, so there's your answer. Okay, question 6, find the quotient. So this was on my final last semester, and students missed it because they didn't know what quotient was, they didn't know how to deal with it. So quotient just means the answer to a division problem. So you write down the bottom, on the outside filling in a 0x, on the top you have an x to the third, a plus 6x to the second, a plus 0x minus 5. What do I multiply by x to the second to get x to the third? That's an x. Distribute, and I get x to the second plus 0x squared plus x. Change, oh, that should be an x to the third right there, sorry. Change your signs. Those cancel. That gives you a 6x to the second minus x, bring down the 5. What do I multiply by x to the second to get 6x to the second? That would be a 6. Distribute 6x to the second plus 0x plus 6. Change your signs. Those cancel. Negative x minus 11. So here's some things they could ask you. Okay, the first thing they asked, well, what this problem is, find the quotient. So the quotient is x plus 6. Done. They could say find the remainder. If they say find the remainder, it's negative x minus 11. That wasn't what they asked, but just be prepared for that. Okay, question number 7. 7a. Okay, so your constant's a 3. What goes into 3? 1 and 3. Your leading coefficient is a 2. What goes into 2? 1 and 2. So 1 over 1 is a 1. 1 over 2 is 1/2. 3 over 1 is a 3. 3 over 2 is 3 over 2. You have to put parentheses around it, and there's a plus or minus in front of it. Okay, part B. So what you do is you start storing those in. You plug it into this equation, and you find one that gives you a 0. Okay, so I'm cheating, and 7a negative 3 over 2 works. So if you plug in negative 3 over 2, you're going to get a 0. So that's the answer to part B. There might be more to part B. So you're going to go negative 3 over 2. You have a 3, a 2, a 1, a constant, so we're good. So 2, negative 3, negative 7, positive 3. 2 comes down. So one thing you might want to consider you could even store in that negative 3 over 2. So if you go negative 3 divided by 2, store, enter, and then you just go 2 times membar, enter, enter, and you got a negative 3. Combine those, you get a negative 6. So go negative 6 times membar, enter, enter, and you got a 9. Combine that, you get a 2. 2 times membar, enter, enter, and you get a negative 3, and there's no remainder, and that's what should happen. So this is an x to the third. I did synthetic division once. So this is 2x to the second minus 6x plus 2. I'm trying to solve it, so I'm going to set it equal to 0. Now I'm going to take out a 2, and I'm left with x to the second minus 3x plus 1 equals 0. I can tell that's not going to factor, so I know b is over. I don't have any more rational, and now I can go to c. So I'm going to write down x to the second minus 3x plus 1 equals 0, and I'm going to use quadratic. So it's x equals 3, plus or minus the square root of negative 3 squared is 9, minus 4 times 1 times 1, I'm never going to write that down, it doesn't change it, all over 2 times 1 is a 2. So that gives you x equals 3, plus or minus the square root of 5, all over 2. Those are your answers. This is a third. You've got one answer there, 2 answers there, and you're done. And if it were me and I was taking this on the quiz, I would absolutely store those in my calculator, plug it here, make sure I get a 0. Same thing there, double check. Okay? All right, here's question 8a. Okay, so 8a is super sweet, and we would love it if it were on our test. So some people cross multiply right here, but they don't realize that it's not an equal sign. The only time you put cross multiply is if you have an equal sign. So this is a critical numbers type 2. So critical numbers type 2, step 1, pull that negative 2 over x plus 4 over to the left, it becomes a positive, and get a 0 on the right. And that is the correct first step. It says AAAD, that's hilarious. So it's the third A down the line, okay? Okay, question 9A. So find all the rational zeros and find all the other zeros. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little trick here. You could totally list your possibles and then find your others and your rationals and, you know, all that business. But remember that little trick I showed you? So this is a 3 and a 2, and this is a 9, a negative 9, and a negative 6. And I'm not missing anything. My exponents are 3, 2, 1 constant. So could I do something to a 9, do the same thing to the 6, and get a 3 and a 2, which would match these right here? Yes. I could take out a negative 3, because a negative 3 times 3 is a negative 9, negative 3 times positive 2 is a negative 6. So that little check, if it works out, it tells me that this thing actually factors. So I don't have to do the possibles and all that. I can just factor it. Now it is going to be just a little bit tricky, but I know you can do it. So see the x to the third, it's going to go to an x to the second and an x to the first. One of those has to have a 3 in front of it. I don't know which one, so I'm not going to do it yet. But see this squared right here? This is supposed to be a 2x squared. So if I put a 3 right there, how am I going to get a 2 out of that? I'm not easily. So I'm going to put my 3 right there. Now I want a 2x squared, so that's going to be a 2, and it's going to be a positive. I want a negative 9x, so what goes right there? Negative 3. And then, like I said when I taught this to you before, I just do a quick check. Is a negative 3 times a positive 2 negative 6? Yes, so I know I'm good. So if I set that equal to 0, I get x equals negative 2 over 3, and I've got it. If I set x squared minus 3 equals to 0, that gives me x squared equals 3. Then I square root it, and I get x equals plus or minus the square root of 3. So if I were you, I'd go like this. You can totally write it just like that. Nothing's wrong with it. Done. Okay? So the rationals, just so you guys know, the rationals, oh, they did ask you for possibles. Okay, So it's totally fine. Possibles for part A. What goes into 6? 1, 2, 3, and 6. What goes into 3? 1 and 3. So your possibles are 1 over 1, 1 over 3, 2 over 1, 2 over 3, 3 over 1, 3 over 3 is a 1, 6 over 3, 6 over 1 is a 6, and 6 over 3 is a 2. So that's all of them, plus or minus, got it. Then plug those in, find the one that works, that's the answer to part B, and then part C is that right there. If it doesn't tell you to list the possibles, and you don't have to. So this method is totally fine, and you could even do this method right now for part B and C. So anyway, let me just finish it correctly. So if negative 2/3 was irrational, which it is, then 3, 2, negative 9, negative 6 synthetic should give me a 0. So 3 comes down. It'd be awesome if you want negative 2 divided by 3, store, enter. Then I could go 3, memvar, enter, enter, and I'd get a negative 2. That's a 0. 0 times negative 2/3 is 0. Negative 9, so I'm going to go negative 9, memvar, enter, enter, and I get 6, no remainder. This was a third. Synthetic division once is 3x to the second plus 0x minus 9. The 0x is not necessary, so I would just write 3x squared minus 9 equals 0. And then I'm going to take out a 3. There's so many ways to do it. I'll do it kind of similar to up the other one. Move your 9 over, divide by 3, x squared equals 3, square root it, x equals plus or minus the square root of 3, and that is the answer to part C. Okay, so either one is fine. Just if it asks for possibles, make sure you list your possibles. Okay, number 10. A rocket is shot into the air from a platform that is 30 feet high, and the path of the baseball, or the rocket, sorry, is represented by this equation. Okay, so I'm going to let x represent time in seconds, and f of x, which is your y, it is the height, and that would be in feet. So the question is, when will the rocket be 40 feet in the air? Well, that's a height of 40. So part A, negative 16x to the second plus 208x plus 30 is equal to 40. Pull your 40 over, negative 16x a second plus 208x minus 10 equals 0. The 40 came over and became a negative. So there's lots of things you can do. It tells you to round. You could totally take out a 2. I'll take out a negative 2 actually, just to make it a little cleaner. So negative, positive, negative goes to positive, negative, positive. 8 divided by 2, or 16 divided by 2 is 8x squared. 208 divided by 2 is 104x. And 10 divided by 2 is 5. Don't forget your equals 0. I'm going to use quadratic formula now using those. So I have x equals 104 plus or minus the square root of 104 squared. That's 10,816 minus 4 times 8 times 5 all over 2 times 8 is 16. Now they asked me to put it in decimal form, so I'm totally good to just stick this whole thing in, add parentheses right there. If I had written this as 2 times 8, then I would need parentheses, but since it's just a 16, I don't. So go parentheses, 104 plus second x squared, 10,816 minus 4 parentheses 8, close it, new parenthesis 5. Then you go close, 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 divided by 16, hit enter, and I get x equals 12 point, they want 3 places, so 952. Then I'm going to go up to the right, make it a negative, hit enter, and I go 0.048. Okay, now those values are fine. They're both valid. Here's why. This is a parabola that opens up, a parabola that opens down. Looks like that. Well, there's y equals 40, and it's actually going to hit there and there. So they're both valid. And this is in feet, so I'm going to put feet, and I'm going to put feet, and that's it. Remember, you can now store. If you hit store right here, enter, and then if you go -16, membar, enter, plus 208, or membar, enter, sorry, x squared, plus 208, membar, enter, plus, I'm going to do -10, and I should get a 0, and I did. And you can check the other one as well, okay? Okay, part B. When will the rocket reach a maximum height? So I'm going to rewrite this equation. And from the previous problem, remember that x stands for height. And so they want to know, x stands for time. So when, that's time. So it's negative b over 2a. So that's negative 208 over 2 times -16. 2 negatives is a positive. So that's 208 divided by 32, and that gives you 6.5. So after 6.5 seconds, it'll be at a maximum. Part C, what is the maximum height? So I'm going to store that in, and then I'm going to go, I think I put it in there. Yeah, I just went up until I found my equation, hit enter, 666, and this is feet. And that's it. And you do have to show work. So you'll have to go f of 6.5, -16 times 6.5 squared, plus 208 times 6.5 plus 30, and then equals your answer. Okay, part D, when will it hit the ground? Well, you take that equation, and it's going to hit the ground when the height is a 0 and the height is a y. And then we're going to use quadratic if you want to. You can take out a -2, make the number smaller, and make your a positive. Negative, positive, positive goes to positive, negative, negative. 16 divided by 2 is an 8x squared. 208 divided by 2 is a 104x minus 15. A, B, C. So you have x equals 104. Plus or minus the square root of 104 squared is 10,816 minus 4 times a, which is 8, times c, which is a -15, all over 2 times 8 is 16. It doesn't tell you to round. It's going to say to round, so that's a typo. So go parenthesis 104 plus second x squared 10816 minus 4 times 8, or parenthesis 8, close it, parenthesis -15, close, 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 divided by parenthesis 16, hit enter, close it if you want, and you get x equals, I'm going to go 13.143. Okay, and then I'm going to go up, right, hit negative, enter, and I get -0.143. Then I'm going to write invalid solution because x stands for seconds. So it's 13.143, and that is seconds. Okay, then I'm going to go back up, change my negative to a positive, hit enter. Then I'm going to go store, enter. Then I'm going to hit up until I'm back on top of that equation, hit enter, and I did not get a 0. So let's look. 10D. I should have, because it matches. Okay, let me try it really fast. I don't want to mess up. So go get that 13.143 on there. Hit store, enter. Then it doesn't matter if you put it here or if you put it there. I'm going to put it right there. So I'm going to go -16 membar enter x squared plus 208 membar enter plus 30 hit enter, and I got a 0. So just so you know, I got something weird in my calculator. It says -1, and then it looks like this, times 10, -10. So this is like scientific notation. And so the calculator's trying to say 0, but it can't quite get there. So it means a -1, decimal here, move your decimal 10 places to the left. So a whole bunch of zeros and then a 1, it's a 0. Okay, so don't worry, it's close. It's as close as the calculator can get. Okay, question 11. Here's this. This is actually a little while ago we learned this. Okay, so it says, just graph it. Find all the intercepts, blah, blah, blah. So this is not like the vertical asymptote, horizontal asymptote stuff. So on this one, you have to find your x-intercepts, your y-intercepts, and your end behavior. That's pretty much what you have to do. So x-intercepts, let y be 0. So that would be 0, 0 from that, and that would be cross. This guy right here gives you -t0, that's bounce. This guy gives you 2, 0, and that is bounce as well. If 0, 0 is an x-intercept, it's also a y-intercept. And behavior, 2, 4, 5, you have to add those exponents, but it has a negative. So it's a cubic, but your cubic has a reflection. So your end behavior is actually this guy. So it's left up and right down. So 0, 0 crosses, 2, 0 bounces, -2, 0 bounces, and that's all we've got. And we know the left is up, so it's going to look like this. Left up, hit it, bounce, come up, hit that cross through, hit that bounce, head back down. I was supposed to end up down, so I'm good. Okay, number 12. A farmer wants to create a rectangular plot on the side of a barn. Okay, so I'm going to draw it. And I'm going to always put the barn in the same place, okay? And then it says she has 840 yards of fencing, and she won't put fence along that side, maximize the area. So we have a W and a W and an L. So your 840 has to cover 2 W's and 1 L. Then you solve it for L. So it's 840 minus 2W. Then you come over there and replace that with 840 minus 2W. Now I find area, so it's length times width. So my area is W times 840 minus 2W. Distribute, and I get 840W minus 2W squared. And then I reorder, and it looks like that. Now I'm trying to maximize it. So that's -b over 2a. So that's -840 over 2 times -2. So that's 840 divided by 4, which is 210. Now that's the width that's going to make the maximum area. And the question is, find the dimensions and the area. Okay, so this is 210. And our dimensions are in yards. So 210 yards by something yards. And then the area is going to be something square yards. So to find the other dimension, I'm going to take that 210 and I'm going to plug it right there in for W. So I have length equals 840 minus 2 times 210. So if I put that in my calculator, I get 420. So it's 210 yards by 420 yards. You have to show this work right there that I just wrote. And then area is length times width, which is 210 times 420. And I get 88,200, and that's the maximum area. Okay, question 13, difference quotient. So here's your equation. And they give you the formula for the difference quotient, and they will always give you the formula for the difference quotient. So let's do this first. So write down that original equation. take this x and erase it, and this x. Every x has to go, and you replace it with x plus h. So it looks like that. So what I have on this right here is that pink stuff right there, okay? Then you have to subtract the original, and then you divide it by h, okay? Now they want you to simplify it. So right here, I'm going to FOIL. So that's x to the second plus 2hx plus h squared. Distribute negative 3x minus 3h plus 1. Distribute negative x to the second plus 3x minus 1. Some of you are not liking writing the entire thing, meaning writing that divided by h. You have to. So x squared minus x squared cancel. 3x minus 3x cancel. 1 minus 1 cancel. So I have 2hx plus h squared minus 3h over h. Everything has an h in it. So it's 2x plus h minus 3 all over 1, and I'm done. Okay, here's 13. Here's 14. So some of you are doing 14, and you're literally not showing any work at all, and you're missing it, and then you're getting 0 partial credit because I have no idea what you've done. So remember, your work is you have to go x becomes y becomes. So that affects the x, but the x lies, so x becomes x minus 2. Then the y, take this f of x plus 2, replace it with a y. That's your formula for the y, okay? Now look at that those ordered pairs. So I have given you a ton. So negative 1 comma 0 is not a turning point. Point B is 0 comma 3, and that is a turning point. C is 1 comma 0, not a turning point. D is 2 negative 3, kind of a turning point. Turns just a little bit after that. So I'll go turn with a line underneath it. And then E is 3 comma 0. Now I have to change these points. So I'm going to call them A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime, E prime. And then I'm just going to follow these formulas that I've written. No formula, no partial credit. Take the x's and subtract 2. Negative 1 minus 2, negative 3. 0 minus 2, negative 2. 1 minus 2, negative 1. 2 minus 2, 0. 3 minus 2, 1. Take the y's, multiply by a negative, then add 3. So 0 times a negative is a 0, plus 3 is 3. 3 times a negative is a negative 3, plus 3 is a 0. 0 times a negative is a 0, plus 3 is a 3. Negative 3 times a negative is a 3, plus 3 is a 6. The 0 I've already done 2 times before that. I'm going to get a 3. Okay, now let's talk about end behavior. Do you see that negative that's right there with the f of x? It changes your end behavior. So if you look at the original graph, it's left down, right up. Since there's a negative, it's going to be the opposite, left down or left up, right down. Okay, so let's plot this. So left 3, up 3, put a dot, label it A prime negative 3 comma 3. Negative 2, 0, put a dot, label it B prime negative 2, 0. Negative 1, positive 3, C prime negative 1 comma 3. 0, 6 is here. That is D prime 0 comma 6. E prime is 1 comma 3. Label it E prime 1 comma 3. Okay. Now the left side is up. Turning point. So I'm just going to put like a line underneath turning point. D is just about a turning point right there. Okay, so it's going to be up high, come through, hit that. That is a turning point. Hit that, come there. D's almost a turning point, so it's going to go a little bit further. Come down like that, end down. I was supposed to end down. I'm good. Okay, number 15. Find the domain. I have an even root that's on the top. So if you have an even root that's on the top, the inside is greater than or equal to 0. So negative 3x plus 2 greater than or equal to 0. negative 3x greater than or equal to negative 2, divide by negative 3, switch the inequality, negative 2 over negative 3 is a positive 2/3, okay? It says interval, so they want it in interval form. So that would be, it's less than 2/3, so that would be a negative infinity to a positive 2/3, close with the bracket, done. Okay, number 16, list all the solutions. This is easy. Absolute value of x equals 12. It's already alone, so you split it. So you get,
They're out of toilet paper!
get out of here! What are you doing, you sicko?
I told you they're out of toilet paper. I had to use your arm.
Angelina, get out of this room. I'm trying to help my students. She's so weird. X equals 12. X equals negative 12. Done. Okay, number 17. Absolute value of 5 minus x plus 2 equals 6. Step 1, get your absolute value alone. So move your 2 over, you get the absolute value of 5 minus x equals 4. Next step, split it in 2. Next step, solve. So 5 comes over and becomes a negative. Change your signs, x equals 1. Here, 5 comes over and becomes a negative. Change your signs, x equals 9. Done. Number 18. Piecewise function. Hey. So I'm recording right now, the review. So you can just take this, sit at the desk, go ahead and start it. Cool? Okay, and then I'll talk to you in a second once I'm done recording. Okay, so, you know what? I'm going to have you sit right there if you don't mind, because I'm going to be doing this, but will you leave your bag in here? Thank you. Okay, so here's this. So you have y equals negative x plus 3. So I'm going to go up 3, make a dot. The slope is a negative 1 over 1. So I'm going to go down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1. So it's going to look like that. So the whole thing looks like that. But the only piece of that graph that's supposed to say is less than 0. Here's your 0 right here. So to the left of that is this piece. So the right has to go. So that's gone. And then there's no equal sign. So the circle right there is actually going to be an open circle. So just be clear, okay? The next equation is y equals negative x to the second minus 3. So you go down 3, make a dot. And then this is a parabola that opens down. So I'm going to go right 1, down 1, right 2, down 4. Same thing on the other side. So it's going to look like that. But the only thing I'm supposed to keep are the greater than or equal to 0, which is to the right of the 0. So it looks like this. And since I have an equal sign, that circle is going to stay closed. Okay? And then find f of negative 2. I wouldn't use the graph, honestly. I would just use the equations. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to f of negative 2 is 3 minus a negative 2. That's 3 plus 2, which is 5. And then f of 0, that would be this. So that's negative 0 squared minus 3. So that's a negative 3. And you got it. Okay. 19. Oh, I'm tired. Okay, 19. Absolute value inequality. Step number 1, get your absolute value alone. Okay, so move your 4 over. So you have the absolute value of 2 minus 3x is less than or equal to. The 4 comes over and becomes a negative, so you get a 1. The next step, which everyone's forgetting, is to make it an equal sign. The next step is to split it in 2. Notice it's still an equal sign. Once you make it an equal sign, it's never going back to an inequality, okay? So move your 2 over, becomes a negative. Negative 3x equals negative 1. Divide, x equals 1/3. Over here, negative 3x, that should be a negative 1. 2 comes over and becomes negative. Negative 3x equals negative 3. Divide, x equals 1. Go to your number line. 1/3 is there. Positive 1 is there. I have equal signs, so they're closed. The symbol is a less than. This, you don't test this region. You don't do the signs. You look at the inequality symbol. Less than, you have to remember, means inside. So your answer is 1/3 with a bracket to 1 with a bracket, and you're done. Okay, number 20 is super easy. So if x plus 5 is a factor, set the factor equal to 0, and you get x equals negative 5 as a 0 or a root. Okay, 21, lots of people struggle with this problem. So basically, you just take the two domains, you stick them together, and you have to find the region that satisfies both. So the 2 is on the left, it has an equal sign, greater than means to the right. The 5 is over here, it also has an equal sign. Less than is to the left. So now I have to find the double shaded region. Well, it's not going to be this, because that's only single shaded. It's only shaded by the yellow. So, so that is not going to be it. It's not going to be to the right of the 5, because that's shaded by the green, but not the yellow. So that stuff is gone. And so the stuff that remains is the center. They want it in set builder notation, so you write it as x such that 2 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 5. Done. Okay, number 22. 22 is super easy. So they give you the equation, which is actually wrong. I changed this. Let me move over here. So the new equation is 2x to the third minus 4x to the second plus 8x minus 16. And then they give you a list of things that could be a 0, and you have to say which one is a 0. Sorry, that went sideways. So if you just sit and plug those in, if you go 1 store, enter, 2 membar, enter, raise it to the third, minus 4 membar, enter, x squared, plus 8 membar, enter, minus 16, hit enter. It didn't work because I didn't get a 0. Then if I go 1 divided by 3, store, enter, up, enter, didn't get a 0. 2 store, enter, up, enter, I got a 0. So it's going to be x equals 2. And sometimes they have some where it could be more than 1. So I'd go 6 store, enter, up, enter, did not get a 0. So easy. Okay, questions 23 through 27. Here is your equation. I'm going to have a multiplied out version, which is the one that's given. And I'm also going to have a factored version. So the bottom factor is 2x and x. The 2 goes to a 2 and a 1. Signs are different. Biggest is the negative. Okay, find the domain. This was 23. Comes from the bottom. X cannot be negative 1. You must put a comma. X can be 2. That's how you have to write it. Question 24. X-intercepts, you let y be 0, which is the same as letting the top be a 0, and you get negative 1/2. 25, y-intercept, let x be a 0. If you do this, this goes away, this goes away, this goes away. So if x is a 0, y is also a negative 1/2. That's coincidental. 26 is vertical asymptote, so it comes from the bottom. That gives you x equals negative 1. That guy gives you x equals 2. They didn't ask even or odd. 27, non-vertical, is biggest over biggest. So we're back over here to this guy. Okay, so biggest over biggest would be the bottom exponent's bigger than the top. So the non-vertical is y equals 0. Okay, that's it. You guys are awesome. Hope that helps.